just to let everyone know. So, all right. So this morning we're going to get started with our business breakfast, and we're lucky to have some wonderful guests with us this morning from the county. And I'm going to let Frank Ramey introduce them in just a short moment. Before we get right to that, I do want to give just a couple of reminders and updates about what's going on with the chamber. So if you got a pen and piece of paper, you might want to jot down a couple of dates and times. Right now through the month of March, we are currently seeking nominations for our Business Person of the Year. So you can go to louisachamber.org on our homepage and click on the logo, and you'll be able to place a nomination for a business. Last year was an incredibly challenging year. However, it was also a very innovative and we made a lot of advancements last year. So I know that there's a lot of businesses worthy of recognition and even so being nominated. So please take some time to consider nominating a business for their hard work and efforts last year. And we're also accepting board nominations. We have some seats to fill going into the next chapter of the chamber leadership. So we are looking for board nominations. You can go to the chamber website under About Us, and it says Our Leadership, and there's a nomination link there. It gives all the information about what it means to serve on the board of directors, expectations, and of course, you can reach out to myself or Bo Bundrick, who is also part of the nominations committee for the chamber. On March 18th, we will be doing our Business Women's Roundtable. That will be in person and virtual, the combination, and that will be at 53rd Winery. That is 11:30 to 1, so it's during a lunchtime, and you can get registered up for that on our calendar. We're also going to be launching this month a new series in partnership with the Central Virginian Small Business Development Center, where we'll be doing monthly dedicated time for one-on-one coaching and guidance for businesses. So please help us get the word out to that. A lot of businesses aren't fully aware of some of the services, the free services that they can get through the Central Virginia SBDC. So we're excited to do that. And then last but not least, this week, this Saturday, actually, we're doing a soft launch for our Unplug and Play in Louisa campaign for this summer's campaign to attract people to Louisa County and get them moving around the county, supporting our businesses, finding out how great it is to live and visit Louisa. So be on the lookout for that information. Help us share and spread the word. That is going to be a significant campaign to helping our businesses bounce back and generate revenue, as well as bring people to the area, whether it's for day trips or extended weekends or for week-long vacations. So those are just the brief updates related to the chamber and what's going on. So we're going to go quickly through some introductions. We have quite a few people on here. So I'm just going to call, when I call your name, if you will please unmute yourself, tell us who you are and who you're with. And because we have a significant topic to discuss today with the county updates, I want to try to keep those introductions brief. And at the end, if we do have additional time, then we can open the floor back up for you to make any special announcements about what's going on with your business or any events or things like that that are coming up. So I'm going to start right from the top on my screen. We're going to start with Sharon. Please unmute yourself and introduce.
Okay, excuse me. I'm Sharon McDonald with Adult Community Education, and we are finding ways to operate through this pandemic. We have just started some Zoom meetings, and we are looking at trying to get a gazebo outside over our picnic table so that we can keep on going.
That's wonderful. Welcome. Okay, Joel. Can you unmute yourself, Joel? All right, we're going to jump to Michael Paul.
Everybody, I'm Michael Paul. I'm with SCORE, and we're a nonprofit that provides free mentorship to small businesses looking for people to help, small businesses to help and new mentors in our organization. Thanks for letting me introduce myself.
Good morning. Ed?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Ed Evans. I'm with Advanced Network Systems. We're a full-service IT firm based out of Charlottesville, but we support businesses throughout the state of Virginia and up into the DC area. We provide a wide range of IT services as well as managed service solutions. Some of the areas we're helping businesses with right now are network security, especially with remote workers. Additionally, we're helping them become compliant with their networks as more and more businesses are being required to be compliant to get loans, get cybersecurity, as well as their customers are requiring it. So whatever your IT needs are, please feel free to reach out to me. We'd love to help you. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thank you. Jack?
You said Jack?
Yes, sir.
Jack Manzeri, good to see many old friends, and a special shout out to Rappahannock and Central Virginia Electric Co-op and the administration and the Board of Supervisors and everybody that supported that connectivity effort. It's going to be a big, it's an important program that's going to shift economic development and education to Louisa and much more.
Good morning. Good to see you, Jack. Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison Thomas. I own Serenity Scenes, digital photography and digital art. And I've recently added a new new shop, Sweet Art Emporium in Fluvanna. It is now carrying some of my smaller work. Annie Gould Gallery is carrying some of my larger work. And I'm always available on the internet, serenityscenes.com. I do unique nature images for home and office.
Good morning. Mike?
Hello, I'm Mike Varner, Carter Printing Company.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Mike is with Carter, a new member with us. So glad you're here this morning.
Thank you.
Ann?
Good morning. I'm Ann Lewis with Rappahannock Electric Cooperative. I'm the Director of Member Services and Community Relations for our Eastern region. And I see some of my colleagues are also on this call, and we're all excited about the partnership with Louisa and Firefly and Dominion.
We are too. Good morning, Ann. Good to see you. John?
John Nafziger with Child Health Partnership. We work with pregnant moms and families with young kids around child and family health and positive parenting. Good to be with you this morning.
Good morning. Good to see you. Lisa?
Hi, I'm Lisa with Louisa Reentry Council. I work with folks coming out of incarceration, coming back to Louisa, making sure they stay on the positive road, and we even are very good about helping them with employment. So thank you to the employers in Louisa.
Thank you. Karen?
Good morning, Karen Welch, Executive Director of the Louisa Arts Centre. We're still here, growing and getting stronger despite the pandemic. Just lots of little activities going on, lots of arts and craft classes. I'm so looking forward to this warmer weather so we can get outside and continue to brighten people's lives.
Wonderful. Mayor Knuckles?
Garland Knuckles, I'm the mayor for the town, Louisa, and just glad to be here this morning.
Good morning. Good to see you. Supervisor Dwayne?
Good morning. I'm Dwayne Adams. I'm the Mineral District Supervisor on the Louisa County Board of Supervisors. Good to see everyone this morning.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Tom Click?
Hey, I'm Tom Click with Patriot Industries over in Ferncliff.
Good morning. Good to see you. Bo?
Bo Bundrick, Louisa County Public Schools and Secretary of the Chamber. Glad to see everyone this morning.
Good morning. Tammy?
Yes, I'm Tammy Boxley with Out of the Box Catering. We can handle all of your catering needs, and I'm also on the board of directors for the Louisa County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also the board liaison for the business breakfast.
Yes, good morning. Sheridan.
Oh, morning. I'm Sheridan Grimm, and I am with Southern Riviera Vineyard and Farm. We actually just broke ground last week, very exciting, on our building finally for our farm, winery, and brewery. Hoping to have that open by the end of the year, hopefully fall in time for nice weather.
Wonderful. Felicia.
Good morning. My name is Felicia Ainsa. I am the Director of Economic Development for Rappahannock Electric. Nice to be here.
Good morning. Thanks. James. James Dickerson, can you unmute? All right. How about Kim Highland?
Good morning, Kim Highland. I'm the director of the Fluvanna Louisa Housing Foundation.
Good morning. Mike Cavros.
Good morning, everybody. This is Mike Cavros with Calliope's Orchard. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Marshall.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Marshall with Dominion Energy. I'm glad to be here and still very excited and proud to be a part of the partnership bringing broadband to the county, along with Firefly, CVEC, Rappahannock Electric, and Louisa County. So thanks, everyone, and glad to be here.
Good morning, Troy.
Good morning, Troy Dillard, Dillard Alarm Company, serving both residential and commercial customers around the lake. Good to be with you guys.
Good morning. And we also have Mark Ponton. I think I said that wrong. He's with REC. He couldn't get his speaker to work this morning, but good morning, Mark. I think that I have gotten everyone on the list. Joel Kendall was also joining us via the phone. I'm not sure if he can unmute himself or not. So Marie, is Marie with you, Frank? Does she want to introduce?
Scooting up here. Good morning, everyone. Oops, am I off? Good morning, everyone. I'm Marie Snyder. I'm Lake Anna Linens, and I'm also the chairman of the board for the Louisa County Chamber of Commerce. I did want to also say thank you. Welcome, everyone, this morning for joining us, and thank you, Christian and the other Louisa County government officials for presenting the State of the County update. I look forward to this every year, and I'm excited to hear what's going on.
Great. Thanks, Marie. And it looks like I missed someone. Mark C.
Hey, good morning. Yes, my name is Mark C. I'm the manager of information technology and cybersecurity for Rappahannock Electric Co-op. It's a privilege to be part of the group again this morning. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I also want to, before I turn it over to Frank for introductions, I would like to acknowledge and thank our sponsor for this morning, Old Dominion Electric Cooperative. I got a message. I'm going to try to get them into their system. They're having a little bit of trouble. So I'll work on that when I turn this over to Frank for introductions of our special guests. So Frank, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thanks, Tracy. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone. If nothing less by Zoom. It's great to see Jack. Nice to see you, buddy. This morning, it really is a pleasure for me to introduce Christian and his cohorts in crime, so to speak. I'm just playing. But we're really happy to have them back with us this morning to give us an update on the inner workings of our local government. And I thought, in the interest of time, since we have such a great group of people with us this morning, rather than spend a great deal of time with a lot of bios, I thought I'd just tell you just a little bit about Christian. Most of you that have been here for any length of time do know Christian, and he basically is the 10th county administrator that we've had here in Louisa County. And he was appointed obviously by the Board of Supervisors, and he holds a bachelor's degree in the environmental, well, cut off on me. Anyhow, sorry about that. But basically, I would like him actually to, as he goes through his presentation, speak a little bit about the people that he has that support him. Andy Wade as the Economic Development Director, as well as Jeff Ferrel, the Assistant County Administrator. And just let Christian take it off and share this information, and we're just gonna go from here. So Christian, with that being said, I'd really appreciate it if you'd kick off our meeting and fill us in.
Great. Well, thanks so much. And Frank and Tracy, am I able to share my screen if I want to throw a short slide deck up? Let's see if this works.
I just gave you permission as host, Christian, so you should be able to. You're just going to need to toss that host back to me when you're done.
Great. Can do. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that okay. And I'm joined this morning by Jeff Ferrel, our Assistant County Administrator, and Andy Wade. Just in the interest of time, we won't spend too much time going over bios. I think many of you know Jeff and Andy. Jeff joined us in General Services back in 2014 and 13. Andy's been with us since 2009 as Economic Development Director, and they're just two of the great folks that we have on our team here. And if you ever need anything from the county, please reach out to me. We'll put you in touch with the right person with the county to help you out. But just looking at what we'll talk about today, we'll take a quick look back at 2021, just a really quick look at the 2022 budget, some discussions about emergency services and growth and comprehensive planning and economic development. And, you know, in years past, I think we always get a little bit long-winded versus the time that you all have allotted for us. And I don't think it leaves enough time for questions at the end. So we're really gonna try to fly through this because I know that I know you all probably have questions about broadband, and I'm really excited that that we have folks from REC and Dominion, our partners in that effort with us today. Yesterday was great. We'll talk about that more in a moment. So just looking back, we were putting this slide together, and I couldn't help but look back at the agenda that I threw out for you last year this time when we did the update. And obviously the pandemic materially impacted us. That's the old agenda down there on the lower right. And but I was really happy when I looked back at that. I was like, you know, we set those goals last year, and despite the fact that we had a pandemic that upended the county and the state and the nation, we still got a lot of those goals accomplished. It took a little bit longer than we thought we were going to, but we'll talk about some more of these as we go along. But we did still move forward with plans to build the Lake Fire Station. The board last night convened a group to look at that in more detail. We'll talk about that. Obviously, broadband. We worked through the comp plan update, and we'll talk about the ordinance update that we did as well, and did a lot of economic development. But I was just really pleased in looking back at that we still, despite the pandemic, got a lot done last year. So just a quick retrospective. You know, we closed the county offices briefly early last year.
Christian?
After the pandemic. Yes.
Excuse me. My view doesn't show any of the slides advancing.
Oh, how about that?
So just checking on that.
Let me turn this over to my technical guru and see if we can.
There we go.
You got it?
It did change to one slide. I'm not sure that if you want to scroll to one and see if it happens. Go up to slideshow on the toolbar. That and then click, yeah, there you go, from beginning, and then now you should be able to just click through it.
Are you seeing all of them?
Yeah, it's not scrolling through the, there we go.
Presentation, but I can't switch it.
Are we still good? Yeah. Okay, so Tracy, you can see the agenda slide right now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, good. So, and this is the retrospective slide. Just stop me again if you can't see anything. We'll figure out a way to do it somehow or another. It'll all be fine. But, you know, just talking about a look back at last year, we did have to close the county offices briefly during the pandemic, but if you've been in the county office building, you see that it looks like a materially different place right now. There's lots of barriers up to keep folks safe in this much different environment that we have to operate in right now. But we've certainly developed a lot of new ways to offer services, a lot of things being done remotely. And I think maybe what's important about that is, much like many of your businesses, I expect that many of the lessons that we've learned will carry forward beyond the pandemic. We'll certainly be glad to get off of Zoom and get back in in-person meetings when it's right to do so. But from an efficiency standpoint, this is certainly taught all of us some valuable lessons that we'll all use moving forward. We got a lot of CARES funding. Andy will talk about how we applied some of that CARES funding from an economic standpoint in the county. We also applied some of that to broadband infrastructure. And we did a lot of facility and infrastructure improvements here on the county side as well. Some new fire and rescue equipment, a new generator in our emergency shelter, some improvements in our building infrastructure that allowed for better spacing. So use that CARES funding as we move through last year. And then as we got to the end of last year, they extended the deadline through December 31st of this year. So we're well on the way with the majority of those projects. I want to talk briefly about vaccinations. I don't want to spend too much time on it. We're working very closely with the health department. As many of you probably know, we have operated, I think, 6 vaccination sites in the county now to date. We have a significant number of our fire and rescue staff that are trained up and now helping the health department give injections, and we're operating that site at the Metal Gym. Now, if you're curious about how to get your vaccination, you have to be registered through the health department. You can now, they've centralized a system now with a call-in center at the state level with 1,000 people staffing that call-in center. And you can also go to vaccinate.virginia.gov. And right now we are in phase 1B, so that's anybody over 65 or between the ages of 16 and 64 that have pre-existing conditions under the CDC. So if you have more questions about that, I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to answer them today, or happy to get you in touch with the right person at VDH. But I think the Blue Ridge Health District has been great for us to work with, and we've had to spool up a significant amount of resources to supplement what they're able to do in Louisa County. As the supply ramps up, I just don't think they have enough staff to do all these rural localities, and they really require the county to step up. So glad to talk about that more as we move forward if you have any questions. I want to talk a little bit about the budget. I did this in a big number of slides in the past, and I'm not going to do a big number of slides today. We'll just do a couple and just hit it kind of from an overview standpoint. We're looking at potentially maybe about a 4% growth rate in real property tax assessments. Sales tax, looking at some potential increases there, about 25% or so. So about overall a 2.5% growth in total revenues. So that'll be about $3 million. On the expenses side, we've had some good luck in health insurance in years past that did not hold over to this year. We're going to have a fairly significant increase in our health insurance this year, and that's just, you know, part of the cyclical nature of paying for health insurance. We participate in a pool called the Local Choice with a number of other Virginia local governments. And for us this year, we had some exposure on our claims that just drove that up a little bit. We've got right now a wedge driven into the budget for a 2% compensation increase for staff. If you're paying attention to the General Assembly, there was some late moving efforts at the end of last week in the budget. And both sides passed a 5% increase for state employees and state-supported local employees. Now, there's a question right now as to whether or not that applies over the 2-year biennium. We did a 3% increase in the current year. We could do a 2% in the coming year, and that would handle things from a biennial standpoint. If they compel that whole 5% to occur in 1 year, then that's kind of a different equation. But more to come on that as we move forward and see what the governor actually approves when he signs the budget. The budget does have 7 additional people in fire and emergency services, 1 in general services, and 1 in the county attorney's office. Overall operational expenses will be up about 4% if they're approved by the board. There's a $5.3 million decrease in the capital projects budget that varies pretty significantly on a year-to-year basis. The board did just approve last night, if you were following along with the board meeting, the issuance of $9 million in debt for the construction of the addition to Jewett Elementary School. So we are moving forward with that. And outside agency requests went down about $450,000. The board's had 2 lengthy work sessions on outside agencies. And last night they kind of went through their agency by agency final decisions. There are a couple still to be decided, but let me know if you wanted more detail on any of those. So overall budget projections, looking at the request for 22, it's about a $7 million deficit, but there's about a $2.8 million operating surplus. And then looking at 23's projections, about a $1.4 million operational surplus and a $6.7 million deficit. So as we look at those, we try to do these long range projections and some of these capital projects budgets, as we look at what's going to be required in years going forward, you see those kind of big CIP budgets that are driving some of these overall potential deficits. Thankfully, the county's got some pretty significant fund balances built up. We have about $8 million in our general fund balance and about another $8.2 million in our CIP fund balance. That's been set aside, and that is set aside on an annual basis to pay for projects like this. So broadband yesterday, and we'll leave some time to talk about this in further detail. I'm sure folks are going to have questions, and we've got plenty of our partners well represented on the phone today or on the Zoom call today. But yesterday we entered a historic partnership with Firefly, REC, and Dominion to bring gigabit speed internet to every end user in Louisa County. And this is a lengthy project. What we entered into last night with them was a memorandum of understanding that lays out essentially 2 phases of a 3-phase project. The first phase involves, the first 2 phases really involve a significant amount of feasibility studies and engineering. That's going to be followed up by an SEC application by Dominion. Dominion and REC play a vital role in this because they're involved in the infrastructure preparation and deployment. If you're familiar with hanging fiber on or within a power easement, make-ready costs are a really significant part of any one of these efforts. And that has to happen because fiber has to be hung at a height that's safely below power infrastructure, but also that's safely above anything that's underneath it on the ground. And so make-ready costs can involve putting in taller poles. It can involve preparing the right-of-ways and easements in other ways. And this is really the I don't want to say a bulk of the work that needs to be done, but certainly it's a very expensive and time-consuming effort, and it requires a lot of engineering. And somebody asked yesterday, like, where is this going to start? And where and when is certainly the $1 million question. And I gave this example yesterday. I guess building fiber is somewhat like building a road. You want to be able to connect it to good roads on either end, or there's really not much reason to build the road. So you build fiber out from existing fiber connections that are already lit, and that extends the network throughout the county. Now, this engineering and feasibility and make-ready work can take place concurrently in multiple areas of the county, but it is a time-consuming process. I have folks say, well, why are you looking at the end of 2025? And the first thing I want to say is because, that's a lot better than 2026 or 2027, which may be, where some of our partners thought was a more realistic timeline. But I want folks to know that we'll be moving forward as quickly as we're able to get the project done with our partners. The county is playing a funding and coordination role, and I certainly can't fail to mention Firefly, which will be the end user provider on a countywide basis. So regardless if someone gets their power from REC or Dominion, Firefly is still going to be the internet service provider that provides and supports and bills for the end user service. Their service packages are $49.99 for 100 megabit per month connection, 100 megabit per second connection, and $79.99 for a 1 gigabit connection. No contracts, no upfront costs, no setup fees. That's it for. So I think that's a really quality offering that they have. It's competitive here in the state or anywhere nationwide from a price standpoint, and they're having some great success on their existing networks where they're already offering that service. So really exciting. Yesterday was a really exciting day, and now the work begins to make this a reality. So emergency services, I talked a little bit in the budget about additional positions that are in the budget. We applied for what's called a SAFER grant to fund those additional positions this year. We did not receive it. We will likely apply for a SAFER grant again next year for additional positions. The positions that are in the budget this year, 7 positions, are primarily focused on the western end of the county and the Trevilians, kind of that sector. We have a high call volume out on that side of the county, and that's kind of pulling our countywide resources from other areas to support it, which is increasing response times elsewhere. So that's going to be a really important addition. We've talked earlier about the New Bridge Fire and Rescue Station. That's going to be moving forward as we move throughout this calendar year, and staffing will be required when it's done, either late this year or early next year. So potentially additional grant funded or county funded positions as we move forward with that. The other thing that I want to talk about, and this may be a good segue into some of Jeff's remarks, we've done a lot of changes to comprehensive planning, and we've talked to you all about that in the past few years. And really where we started to focus our efforts late last year and early this year was on looking at population growth, where that population growth is going to occur in the county, and how we plan for it from a capital infrastructure standpoint. And this really hits home when we're talking about emergency services. Response times are governed by the number of people and the apparatus that are available, and also their location in the county. So making sure through our capital projects and planning process that our infrastructure is placed in the right areas to make our service delivery provisioning as efficient and effective for the citizens as it can be. So maybe I'll turn it over to Jeff to talk about that in a little more detail.
Yep. Thank you, Christian, and good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about planning and growth that we're seeing, and I'll probably touch back on that emergency services planning effort. So as you all know, the 2020 census is complete. We don't expect that we're going to get that data until probably early fall, which is later than normal, affected by the pandemic, which is going to have some effects on a lot of government services in terms of funding and budgeting. Current estimates that we've developed is going to put the population of Louisa County somewhere around 39,000 people. The way we did that was we took the 2020 census data in earlier years and tracked that with building trends and the number of building permits issued year by year, and assuming the ratio of the number of people in each one of those dwellings stays relatively the same, it puts us somewhere around 39,000 people, given the number of new dwellings we've had in the last decade. So this is a pretty big increase, about 17.6%. It's an extra almost 6,000 people. Again, that's an estimate. So, we could be down in 4,000 people, or we could be up, 8,000 people. And as I mentioned, we developed those numbers based on permitting. And I wanted to talk about, the last 10 years, we've seen some growth, but specifically in the last 3 years or 2 years, we've seen a significant amount of growth and activity in building and zoning. Just since when you compare, last year's 2020 to 2018, you got 104% increase in single family homes. And, I think a lot of people jump immediately to, well, those are all lake houses and vacation houses. They're not. When we map these out, they're spread really evenly across the county. In our growth areas, in our rural areas, they're spread across everywhere. So people are moving to this community to live here permanently. 204% increase in commercial building permits. These are new buildings, not renovations, that we capture those under a different category. And it's an indicator of a desirability for businesses to locate here, and the good job that Mr. Wade's doing. Total permitting up almost 180%. And then land use submittals, which is sort of like an indicator that we look at as to what's going to be coming in the next couple of years. Land use applications are anything from a rezoning for a big residential neighborhood or big commercial area to conditions or special exceptions to allow something to occur. Up 33% from 2018, which in commercial is a lot, and land use is a lot. That's a big swing up. So it looks like those trends are going to continue. We expect a lot of building permits in the next 5 years, particularly for residential, but we're hoping there's going to be a lot of commercial as well, with some of the neighborhoods that we know are already coming and have gone through land use. We expect a lot there. So all these people are moving to the county. There's a lot going on. That's why the effort that we've been doing the last couple of years has been important. Comprehensive planning really gives the community and, more importantly, the board the vision to see what's going to happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Where are those people coming from? People drive the amount of services and the more expense that the county is going to have to deal with. When you have more people, you have more emergency vehicles, you have more sheriff's office vehicles, you have more people working in this building, in the schools, across the board. So where are the people going to move? How do we efficiently locate and pay for those services when they're needed? We've been doing this comprehensive planning that's folded into redoing all of the ordinances to tie the comprehensive plan into law. Those were adopted by the board on February 15th. Those new ordinances have a specific goal to protect the rural area and try and, I wouldn't say limit development, but make sure that it fits in the rural area a little bit better. And then really opens the gate to making it easier for commercial development and denser residential development to happen in the growth areas. It supports a higher quality of development by requiring standards for architecture and some standards for landscaping, with the idea that we want those investments that the county is making into those growth areas to be supported by quality businesses. The next step in those ordinances were to actually define new regulations regarding solar. Those of you that have been paying attention have seen a good number of these developments come through planning and our board in the last year. And every time those come in, I wouldn't say we're shooting from the hip, but they're all treated a little bit differently because we don't have a standard set of regulations for them. We do now. We do now, and some of the things that are important there are not necessarily where they're located, but what do we do so that maybe the community doesn't see them? How do we buffer them, screen them? What about reclamation? These things go in, and then what happens 30 and 40 years from now? So we put in there's some bonding information that requires them to be cleaned, remove the ground return to before the panel conditions. There's a whole set of regulations, and we do expect a lot of solar development to be applied for in the county. So it's nice to have a set of rules. So our next steps moving forward with planning, Mr. Goodwin indicated that we've been planning a lot for emergency services, and that's important so that we have good response times. But as population's increasing, we need to know where that population is, and we need to know what kind of services that population is going to need. So the next step of planning for us is going to be small area plans, facility plans, a plan for all county facilities, and a transportation plan for each one of those growth areas. And these planning efforts will help the board budget for long-term cost. I know Christian talked about those significant capital budgets in the next 5 and 10 years. We need to know what those expenses are going to be. Are we going to need a new school in 6 or 7 years? If we do, where is that going to be? How much is it going to cost? So that the county has a plan to save for that, acquire the land, and build the building in a time that's appropriate. So we're not catching up later. We're planning now. Those small area plans will help us do that. The facilities plans will help define what services we need and where those go. And the transportation plans are going to help us get grant money from VDOT and plan efforts and help developers pay for improvements in our growth areas. I'll hand it over to Andy.
All right. Good morning, guys. I want to talk about CARES Act funding, infrastructure planning, Lake Anna Resort, which is an exciting project, and then I want to touch a little bit more on solar, in addition to what Jeff mentioned. But CARES Act, the county rolled out a program back in the summer. We called it the Louisa Opportunity Fund. Some of you on this call were beneficiaries of that, so that's good to see. The Department of Treasury charged each locality or entity that rolled out a program such as this, utilizing CARES funding, to establish internal protocol when developing the program. And that was to ensure that we could go back and cross-check funding sources and uses against our internal protocol in the event we were audited by the Department of Treasury. But that's to say, we initially started with a $750,000 allocation to the program. We were surprised at the interest, honestly, that we got in the first round, and ultimately, post first round, we received a ton of feedback from the community that maybe people weren't aware of the program, maybe it wasn't open long enough. So subsequently, we launched round 2 and 3. The end result of the program, we extended 22 grants to 22 different businesses. Well, some businesses qualified in multiple rounds, but 22 grants total, totaling $214,000 that was invested back into the community. And we really focused on businesses that were impacted by COVID, had COVID-related expenses due to closure. Those businesses that were impacted by the executive order coming from the governor's office, I believe it was 53 and 55. But overall, it was a good program. We would have liked to use all of the money, but nevertheless, we were able to extend and put back into the community $214,000. So we're happy with the results of the program, and hope that you guys are. So infrastructure planning, couple of projects that the board has recently taken action on. Most recent last night, the board approved to design, permit, and acquire easements to extend to eventually in the future extend utilities from Ferncliff to Shannon Hill growth area. As you know, the county's invested and is interested in developing the Shannon Hill Regional Business Park. And what this infrastructure planning will help us do is take that site to a Tier 4 on the Virginia Business Ready Site scale. Tier 4 means that we can deliver utilities to an end user within a 12-month period. It increases the marketability of that, not only the Shannon Hill Business Park, but the Shannon Hill growth area. There's roughly 3,500 acres in that growth area based on the comprehensive plan amendments, and there's a lot of potential growth in that area. That is a growth area in addition to several others we have in the county. We made a concerted effort to make sure that we focus growth in those growth areas for that very reason. And we are going to pull the trigger on that contract here soon. And again, the reason for doing that is to increase the marketability, and that's primarily driven by the interest that we've received in that park to date since we've bought it, and it complements existing or ongoing due diligence that we've done on that site to date. The other infrastructure project is related to the Lake Anna Resort development, and that is an exciting development. The board approved entering into an MOU with the developers of the Lake Anna Resort back in February. It's LA Resort LLC is the name of the developer. Essentially, that MOU is a 3-phase progression plan forward, and phase 1 is the design phase for the resort, and also the design phase for the county, assuming ownership and operations of the wastewater treatment plant at the Lake Anna Plaza. Phase 2 is financial commitments of both entities to the MOU, and that's important because in my time here, never before have we had a developer make a capital contribution of $1 million to what is going to be a county-owned infrastructure project, and that's what LA Resort is contributing to this effort. And phase 3 will be the physical construction of both the upgraded or the brand new wastewater treatment plant and the resort itself. The new plant construction, the wastewater treatment plant construction, will be state-of-the-art technology. It will increase the discharge limits of that plant from 20,000 to 99,000 gallons per day. That's currently permitted in the DEQ permit. Lake Anna Resort will be the largest customer of that new facility, in addition to the existing customers at the plaza. And then also what that does is it gives us control of the wastewater treatment and the discharge point for future commercial development in that 208 corridor, which down the road we believe will become a hotspot for commercial development. Just to give you a little idea of the resort and the amenities quickly, is it's a condo hotel structure, which means that there will be fee simple ownership of the units. So a portion of those units will be sold to individuals. When those individual owners are not using those units, they will place them in a rental pool, just like any other hotel would be. It's a 150 room hotel. Just to give you an idea of the location, it's the last piece of property on the right-hand side if you're headed towards the 208 bridge, with a ton of water frontage on Lake Anna. The capital investment is about $50 million. That's a huge number, and it's going to be a really nice development once complete. Estimated job creation is about 30 jobs. They're going to be 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. It's about 260,000 square foot facility. And then they're programming and designing the amenities to accommodate 4-star rating through the hospitality industry. So those are all exciting features of the development. They'll have restaurants, meeting and banquet space, which would be important to this organization and anybody else that wants to hold meetings. Fitness facilities, pools, playground areas, garden areas, and of course, water recreation areas. You know, what made this really important for the county was the fiscal impact that the resort will have. If the county is to issue debt for the development of the new wastewater treatment plant, the Lake Anna Resort, once built, satisfies the debt service on that potential $4 million issuance of bonds or conventional loan funding in and of itself. So that was between the financial impact and the being able to control the growth in the 208 corridor and the discharge permit. Those were the catalysts that sprung this project forward. And then lastly, I just want to touch on solar. Jeff mentioned it a little bit, but the Industrial Development Authority of the county owns 800 acres between Chopping Road and Chalk Level Road. It's been a zone industrial for many, many years prior to even when I got here. And the sentiment all along has been that, you know, do we really want truck traffic in the center of the county on a major, a busy road, especially when schools are in session and it's extremely busy, and, you know, the differing opinions, but nonetheless, this is probably the highest and best use of that property. And what this does is it takes that property out of the non-tax rolls, puts it back on the tax rolls. The IDA has entered into a lease with a solar developer. It's proposed for 118 megawatts. And it's a significant rental lease income back to the IDA that they can then deploy elsewhere in the county to continue to promote economic development and projects that create new capital investment and job opportunities within the community. And again, it takes the potential for increased truck and pedestrian traffic off of that corridor, and it will be well buffered and in line with the new solar ordinance that Jeff mentioned earlier. That really concludes my remarks, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has on anything we discussed this morning.
Jack Manzeri, are we up to questions?
Yes, go ahead, Jack.
Christian and maybe Dwayne could answer the question about the leadership of this partnership. The diffusion of leadership and completing action plans are a major problem in implementing this program. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. Could you talk about the governance structure? And secondly, I've sent you the suit referencing eminent domain and the state legislation. Could you talk a little bit about the status of those suits?
Sure. So I might defer the suit status to one of our REC representatives because the county's not involved in that and I'm less familiar with it. And easements are going to be handled on a different basis by the entities that actually need to acquire them. But in terms of talking about how the project's going to be managed and coordinated going forward, I do think the county is going to be in a coordination role. As we move through the next 8-9 months this year and the feasibility study and the funding structure becomes more clear, I think what the county is going to be interested in doing is looking at milestones and incentives for those milestones so that we can help move the project along as quickly as possible. And we had leadership on the stage yesterday, but there were also a lot of technical people that are playing integral roles in this team who were there at the press conference as well. And that team they're going to be the folks that are working together to move this project forward to success. And I think what we need the citizens and the businesses to know as we move forward is that this will get done. So Ann or anybody else from REC or Dominion or anyone else on the line, I'd welcome any input you have regarding the suit that Dr. Manzeri mentioned.
Sure, Christian. Hi, good morning. This is Mark C. Again, I'm the manager of information technology at Rappahannock. Yes, the lawsuit is active. It is ongoing. But because of that lawsuit and working with this partnership, just like with Dominion and Central Virginia, we will be securing easements all along the way because of the result of that pending lawsuit. So the way to get around that is to make sure we secure easements going forward for this project to eliminate any concern of having anything like that impact us going forward. We are completely dedicated to this project. Mr. Mark Ponton, who's on the call as well. Mark's having some difficulties with the technology this morning, unfortunately, but Mark was hired as the director of fiber and broadband, or broadband and fiber services for Rappahannock to dedicate full-time efforts to this type of project and the advancement of fiber and broadband throughout our service territory.
Hey, Jack, this is Sarah Marshall with Dominion, and second what Mark's, he said Dominion's protocol for our current broadband efforts underway through our pilot program has been to get supplementary easement agreements with all landowners whose land will be impacted, and we'll do the same thing here in Louisa County. We'll go through and get supplementary easement agreements with those who will be traversing their properties.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? If you want to unmute yourself.
I have a question. I read in the paper just probably a couple weeks ago about a mixed community that Fitz Barnes had put forward, was talking about for Habitat for Humanity and using some funds from permits to cover what's not covered by grants. Could someone please speak to that and just where that is in the approval process? I was just need a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, I can answer that. There's a Habitat for Humanity, the Charlottesville branch has approached the county about putting in a planned unit development community in Ferncliff. which would be a mix of market rate and affordable houses. All of them would be the same style. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference from the outside. And they're all single family homes in a pretty open community, meaning a lot of open space. So it's not what you would maybe think of with apartment buildings and townhouses and dense development. Now, funding of that, they're working through some of the challenges there because there's some infrastructure, some road connections cost, and then the site development itself, which gets expensive. So they're applying for some grant funding from the state for the infrastructure. And I'm sure there's going to be an ask of the county for an assistance on some other parts. I think what you read, and Mr. Barnes had indicated in terms of funding, using permitting funding to help support it. He spoke about that last night, asking the county to look at the feasibility of using impact fees on residential development to offset some of our costs. You can't apply impact fees to housing or a housing project like that. But I think the idea would be to use impact fees, and this sort of goes back to that growth factor where the more people move into the community, the more services you have to offer, and those have capital costs. Their taxes, their annual taxes should pay for the services, but you've got to build them first. So those impact fees that he talked about could take care of some of those areas of the budget, potentially freeing up some money to help with housing or a project like this.
Okay, thank you.
We had a couple of questions in the chat box related to the CARES Act money. And one question was, if there was more money, why weren't sole proprietors eligible? And why didn't it open back up to nonprofit organizations? Andy, can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it really was a function of the protocol that we set forth in developing the program, and that was essentially vetted by the finance committee and ultimately the board of supervisors as a whole. And those two sectors didn't make it into the protocol. So I mean, essentially that's really the answer as to why they were not included.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions in the chat box? But go ahead and unmute yourself.
Tracy?
Yes.
It's Lisa. Hi. I just want to say kudos to Andy and Christian and Jeff. The projects that they're talking about for employment, as you guys know, at least 70% of my participants are working, and the solar projects have, over the last couple of years, have given my people a trade. They have trained them, developed them. They are making out wonderful salaries. They've got benefits. So I just want to say thank you to the county and Andy in particular to bringing these projects to Louisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Does anybody else have any other questions? We're right at that 9 o'clock hour, so I don't want to keep anyone over too long. So I would like to just wrap this up. First of all, just thank you, Andy, Jeff, and Christian, and the Board of Supervisors. You guys are doing a great job. It's a sometimes thankless job, I imagine. You're under a lot of pressures, and I think you're doing a great job to move Louisa forward. I know I personally, as well as for the Chamber, we're very excited about the steps that you're making with the partnership moving forward with fiber and broadband. It's very exciting. I will, just for the benefit of everyone on the call, I will get with that group and see if we can't have a dedicated conversation related to broadband. And then if there was anything else that was brought up and presented by the county that you have additional questions on, or you might like to delve into a little bit more, we can see about perhaps having a separate conversation related to those topics. I do want to thank Frank Ramey as our project chair and Tammy Boxley for their work. And again, I want to thank Old Dominion Electric Cooperative for sponsoring this breakfast today. I hope you guys did go out and support a local business with either coffee or Danish or some kind of special treat to honor this breakfast meeting. If you don't get breakfast out, go support a business for lunch. With that, I'm going to bid everyone farewell and have a great Tuesday, and we will see you soon. Thanks again.
Thank you all.